Township. Regular board meeting of July 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Will you join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as I usually do, we'll do the reviewing of the housekeeping items. Board, I would suggest either moving the mics forward or leaning forward when you speak so that we get clear messaging out to the YouTube stream. And when you join us at the front for citizen comments, you will speak at that microphone, and you need to be within 2 feet of the mic to be clearly heard. There will be 2 opportunities for citizen comments. I will be requesting individuals stay within the 4 minutes in both citizen comment sections and would appreciate everyone keeping their points concise. I would request that comments are made respectfully to the board. We are here to discuss the township's business. Citizen comments should pertain to specific issues, concerns, or policies they would like to bring to the board's attention. For the record, Policy 2.0 has specific guidelines for the citizens addressing the board and its individual members. No name calling or personal attacks, no shouting, no abusive, threatening, or disparaging language will be accepted. And engaging in this type of conversation will require the supervisor to request the individual to return to their seat. To respect everyone's time, I strongly urge the board not to respond to public comments, but address them in the board comments section. Sometimes this is difficult, but this is not a debating stage between citizens and board members. We have township business to conduct, and it is required that we do that effectively. If there needs to be a follow-up from the board, I will direct the appropriate person to reach out to that individual. The documents on the website are aligned to the items on the agenda. These are draft documents to provide background information only. Motions were drafted to help the board more quickly get to the final wording and a vote on the respective motions. The final motion may look different to reflect the actual action taken by the board. Our second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I have the correction on the main agenda page. Using the format for May, I mistook the June 30th and June 15th meetings to be May 11th and 18th, so you need to change that. So board, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Are there any changes to the minutes for the regular board meeting of June 15th, 2021?
I wasn't going to make a correction, but I was going to make a comment that what's in the packets are the correct minutes. It's just the way he wrote it on the agenda. So in your
Right.
packet, you should have June 15 and June
30th.
30th.
Any changes or anything? I have if there's none, then I would like to make a clarifying comment as to one of the statements that Alan made. Is that allowable to clarify a point? Any objections? The point would be on number 6 of new business, which would be on page 2. And it relates to the approval of the Beckett and Rader contract. And Mr. Martell voted no because we are violating our own policy by buying something that is over $5,000 and was never budgeted. I just wanted to clarify that in checking the MTA book, items can be approved by the board even if they're not in the budgeted, as long as there are funds available to do it. And we buy a lot of things over $5,000. And in this particular case, we did not put the bid out because of the fact that the firm that we hired is the same firm that is doing our planning. And we felt that the consistency between these 2 items would be appropriate. So under policy 4.0, we didn't have to bid it out. But it's just a clarification on that point, Alan.
That's fine.
All right, I'll make the motion that we accept the regular board meeting of June 15th, 2021 as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. It is moved and seconded to approve the regular board meeting of June 15th, 2021. Any further discussion? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we will now move to, are there any changes to the minutes for the special board meeting of June 30th, 2021? Hearing none, I will make the motion to approve the special board meeting of June 30th, 2021. Minutes as presented. Is there a second? Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve the special board meeting of June 30th, 2021. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving to the next one. Kathy, I'll start with you. Do we have any correspondence?
I have done.
All right, Sharon, you had one you'd like to share.
I have, not correspondence, but I've got announcements. I've got two of them, as a matter of fact, and they're pretty good. Can you hear me, everybody? On last month's board meeting, we had approved by the board to go out and seek a grant from Power Plan of $2,500 towards the purchase of a generator at the South Station Fire Department. And we hadn't heard. I made a few inquiries, and we weren't told officially yet, but I have been told that not only did we get the $2,500 towards that grant, but they awarded us half the price of the generator and a total of $4,058. So kudos to Power Plan for that. We'll be getting our official letter soon. Second of all, it's been a hot topic throughout the entire state and nation in regards to the American Rescue Plan Act. Through Michigan, we needed to have that plan put in place by the 27th of this month. So work diligently. I have submitted and got the share of the American Rescue Plan dollars for Torch Lake Township as allocated by it was the 2010 census numbers, although there was like 15 numbers off on that, shorted us. But anyway, we put it in, submitted it, and I got a successful submission back on July 14th and a confirmation number. And Torch Lake Township will be awarded the first half of this grant. No, it's not a grant, it's the rescue plan. The first half comes this year, and the second half of it comes by May of 2022. We have a little few notes here. We have, of course, MTA strongly encouraged everybody in the state of Michigan to apply for this, to get that American Rescue Plan. It was the federal grant, and then the state had allocated along the way during the process. So it says that there is great flexibility in how the dollars can be used, and the money does not have to be committed until the end of 2024. There's time to make decisions and so forth and whatnot. So we have until December of 2024 to put a plan together, and we have until 2026 to spend the money. So that's a lot of leeway, and there's a lot of flexibility in it. So Torch Lake Township will be awarded the total of $123,404. So that plan has been submitted and it's done. So, and very cool, very timely.
Excellent. Thank you. The next piece is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes by the board members? If not, I have one. we need to move item 12 from new business down to board discussion, please. That's the only change I have.
So it should be E2 then?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, no other changes. I move to approve the agenda with changes. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Move to consent agenda.
Nope.
Oop, what did I forget? Citizen comment. I
Yep.
do that now and then. All right, with citizen comment, I just want to reiterate, if you would, keep it to 4 minutes, and I'll turn the mic on.
I can get it.
Yes, they were at the door. I don't know why I messed it up. Yep.
I don't see everybody making a beeline for the mic, so. Jairus Rubing,
You
District
can
1
take it off there and hold it if you want.
County Commissioner. At our last County Commissioner meeting, I made a motion and we had support to approve a bonding issue for the Antrim County Road Commission to replace their Central Lake Garage. And the reason I made this motion is because all of my district depends on that garage to get the roads plowed, the upkeep done. All of Torch Lake Township and Banks Township depend on the equipment and the personnel from Central Lake to keep our roads plowed in the wintertime and maintenance done in the summertime, ditches mowed, et cetera. So that building was constructed in around 1946, and a lot of our new plow trucks don't even fit in the doors anymore. We got a lot of them have wings on the sides, and the salt shed is about a third of what we need for the roads in this district. So they're going to be tripling the size of the salt shed for the Central Lake Garage location. So it's a $5 million bond to be issued to be paid over 20 years. And our goal is to keep it to 4 million, but with construction prices the way they are, we didn't want to start and not be able to finish. So that's the reason we added the extra leeway in. And if the voters desire to, 10% of them can ask for it to be put up for a vote. Historically, that hasn't happened, but it's up to any voters who would like to vote on whether we should be building a new road commission garage to request that from our county clerk. And they, I believe, have 60 days to do so. It has passed the bond review crew, and the old garage will be taken down, completely demolished, and they'll be building a brand new one right where it is. So they're hoping to start that demolition around 90 days from now.
What do they do with everything in there now?
Some of it's going to be kept outside, unfortunately, but they're going to do part this fall and then wait for the winter and then do more next spring when spring hits. So I don't think they had too much else. Oh, I got a picture here if anybody would like to see it. The road commission purchased a brand new Packer today. Their old one was a 1987. This new one is 2020, and they got it on My Deals, which gave them a 14% discount. So it was the total cost. The old one would pack 60 inches at a time. This new one does 84. So it's a pretty sizable increase, and we hope we can do it faster and not need as many employees. So I'll pass the picture around. You can see it.
Jared,
Yeah.
what is it packing?
Yeah, what is it?
So the way I understand it is it'll pack gravel roads if they're loose, but it'll also do asphalt if we're pouring a new road. I'll show you a picture here.
Oops. Okay.
Oh, okay. In my day, a Packer was a garbage truck, so.
I thought he said a Packard. I thought we
What's a
were buying
run-in-
cars.
Front end roller. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I'm done.
All righty.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Deb Graber.
Hi, Deb Graver, 1227 Beach Nut Lane. I just want to thank all of you guys for your service. I noticed on the agenda tonight, section 2.19 for the ordinance regarding the camping trailers. If you would please consider putting in 30 consecutive days in the second paragraph, first sentence, rather than just 30 days, but 30 consecutive days, that would be great. I noticed there is a fee schedule republished, but I did not notice on there if there's a pyrotechnics fee. So if someone wants to put on a pyrotechnics show, is there a charge for that or is that free? Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. Any other comments? All right, we'll close citizen comment. We'll move to the consent agenda. Any reports that the board would like to pull? Sharon?
I'd like to pull the clerks and the fire department, please.
All right. And I would like to pull the day park.
Okay?
Ginny's not here, that's all right, I'll just make a comment on the day park.
I'm asking for some information from the zoning administrator, but it has to deal with the special board meeting of the planning commission last month. No, was it last month?
No, this month.
This month. And I don't know if I do that under Jason's report or if I would ask here.
You want to ask, is it related to their report that they filed, or is it related to what took place at the meeting?
What took place primarily?
I would do it with Jason.
Yeah, it's not on the report.
At Jason's time, okay,
Yeah,
good.
is that all right?
Sure.
All right.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you ask all the board members to speak into their mic? They're kind of distance away from them.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, it's interesting because we're hearing it loudly up here, so it may be dying. All right. So the rest of the reports will be accepted by consent, and I will let Sharon start with the clerk.
One thing on the clerk's page, check number 36962 was voided today. So on this report, it shows as being paid, just mark it as being void. And that's the only thing on this sheet.
That's on page 2, about 2/3 of the way down.
I just gave the number, that's all.
I didn't hear you say page.
I just need, all you really need is a check number, Kathy, 36962.
And got it.
Okay. The fire department, we ready to go there?
Yes.
We can see the fire report, and then something was omitted from there, and so I got a letter special that was given to me, and I was asked to read it. This is from the Fire Chief Kevin Lane, Township Board, Township residents. I am pleased to announce that Bob Hawkins has passed his firefighter 1 and 2 class to become a certified firefighter as required by the State of Michigan Fire Services Division. The department members, as well as myself, congratulate Bob on his accomplishments. Kevin Lane, Fire Chief.
Great, thank you. The day park, the only thing I wanted to point out to the community, and I wanted to tell Veronica, thank you very much for the report. It was very informing. The number of boats and residents, non-residents that have gone through. If I take it correctly, there were almost 191 boats came through, 90 that were related to residents and 101 for non-residents. So it's getting an awful lot of traffic, and the rest of it, I think it would be good if people walk through the report to see what is going on down there. We've had quite the crowds lately, and we are doing it with a minimum amount of staff. We only have 2 attendants, and they're high school kids, right? Or one's a college and one's high school, or are they both college?
Aren't there at least 3?
So, yeah, Avery. Yep, and then we got Bob and Jenny and yourself. So unfortunately, when we get to the finance report, we'll talk about that. That's all I have there.
I
Sharon?
have a question for Veronica, since she's sitting here. Because of Central Lake's refusal to take trash now, unless we want to pay $8 a bag, I'm wondering if we've noticed any community trash being thrown in over the fence behind the dumpster, anything like that.
I have noticed some clearly white kitchen bags. I've gone through a few of them with gloves on, of course. And I don't know where they're coming from, definitely the community, but I couldn't find any names. I will say that dumpster, as of yesterday, so it's changed on Wednesday. Yesterday, I had trouble getting in the afternoon garbage. It is completely full.
Have we gotten the larger dumpster yet? Okay, because we did put in a request for that. I know that Virginia did that, so, but we don't have it yet. That would help.
And prior to this, there's always been an issue with that for years. So it's not been a non-existent issue.
Right, well, at the last state park meeting, Bill finally stated the obvious, and that we had to increase the size. So I think they went to a 6
Yeah,
or 60, whatever they call it.
It's been ordered.
Okay, great,
Can I make one more comment?
yeah.
The 911 is in one sheet, but from the desk of the sheriff is not really part of a 911 report. So it's an extra report that's given. So I want to say kudos to the sheriff's department. They got 3 new deputies hired. Also underneath that, it says a sheriff sale of auction. There's a date on there, August 6th, 11 o'clock. It's kind of interesting. I was at the last one back in 2015. So there's a lot of stuff in that garage. So it's kind of interesting if anyone's interested in looking at any seized property from 20-some years. So that's just a comment.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to special reports. Jason, you had quite an interesting meeting this last week.
Yeah, at our last planning commission meeting, we had 104, 105, 106 people here. It was all in regards to the Torchport Air Park. And what happened there was Tim Bays spoke what he needed to say in the beginning. We had 44 letters that were read at the meeting. We had 16 public comments, people that stood up and spoke about it. And that was really it. That's all that took place. The board members, we weren't commenting on anything. We were just kind of taking it all in. So.
That was not the meeting I meant. I meant the special board meeting that the planning commission had on the hearing for M88.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is that I have a concern. I've been through 2 rezonings in my time as a supervisor here. And one was Agaming and one with regard to the rezoning of the villages. And Lee, you were chair at that time. And for both of those rezonings, there was a lot of input. The villages, for example, went on for easily a year, maybe longer, in terms of input. And we had constant input from people. In fact, the planning commission even invited just a general meeting of the public to come in and here's what our concern is, and with regard to the villages, and here's what we'd like to do. Does anybody here have a notion as to why that village thing got rezoned and why they thought about it?
Well, I think if you can go to the minutes and get a reading as to what was processed during that meeting, Alan.
Well,
I mean-
what I'm getting at is what the issue started out in terms of people getting concerned was that the village zoning at the time allowed both commercial business as well as residential to be side by side and sometimes even above one another. And the question came up because Torch properties were rising and popularity was increasing, short-term rentals were increasing, that somebody could come along and buy 400 or 500 foot of frontage on Torch Lake, no matter what the price was, and put up a large kind of rental place, hotel, whatever kind of thing. And that might have been allowed under that village zoning. So the question came up, we need to take a look at that. And many of the residents along in the villages on the lake brought up that concern. So the whole process started, let's take a look at that. And they ended up with the village business, they ended up with the village residential, and then all the property along the lake became R1. And that was, if you go through the minutes, which I did, Bob, for 2012 and 2013, looking at the comments, and I'll give you why that was important. The board approved this on the 17th of, March 17th of 2013, approved that. And our criteria was the fact that we had a lot of input. When we had that meeting, there was no question with regard to what we were approving and why we were approving it. As the same was with the augmenting. In the case, when we get to the case of M88, the zoning administrator came up with 9 different sets of criteria for which the planning commission was to make a judgment with regard to whether or not the M88 would pass muster and would be allowed. My question, and I have a lot of questions about those myself personally, but I'm not going to bring that up here. The point is, I said, where do these come from? When we deal with the ZBA has a set of criteria that they must meet with regard to making an approval. On a rezoning, we've never had a set of criteria that we followed because basically for the 2 that I experienced, we didn't need it. The public had a lot of input, the board had a lot of input, and in both cases we said yay because we understood it. In this one here, it seems to me that when we have a set of criteria like this and something that is as important as changing a property to especially commercial, in which you either say yay or nay to commercial, you don't decide except under special circumstances what's going to be that commercial, that the criteria ought to be something that we have approved, the planning commission has looked at, we had an opportunity to discuss it and maybe even put it right into the zoning ordinance. And that's not there. The other thing I bring up too, is that there were 9 criteria that were brought up, and there was a statement here that if one of those should not be recommended for approval, this is again, Sarah, I'll mention this is your email, if they are met, then I think it is safe to approve it, if they're all approved. And indicating that you'd feel more comfortable if in the case we begin, if one of them was not approved, that we could say no to them. It seems to me those kinds of questions are questions that we need to have some education on before we move forward with this kind of approval, because the question I have now is, are these 9 criteria the same criteria now that we must judge any future rezoning in this township?
Can I interrupt for a second?
No,
Well,
not for a second,
Well,
just for a minute, hang
you're
on.
out of order in the sense that this is not part of the consent agenda, so.
Well, you said that I could speak
Well,
when he
yeah,
spoke.
but what?
Did you
what
not tell me the truth?
Well, what you didn't tell me is that you were trying to retry the planning commission meeting.
No, I'm not trying to
Well,
retry.
you
What
are.
I'm
You are
saying is that
bringing
I have
up-
concerns about it, Bob.
Alan, you're bringing up significant points that
Yes,
either
they
one.
are. I agree.
Where were you at the meeting when they had the special meeting? You were not at that meeting. You had every opportunity to attend that meeting and bring all these points up. Now, I'm calling you out of order because in this sense, you have exceeded.
Okay.
what the
Okay, Bob,
discussion
that's
is.
okay. Okay.
So I
Okay.
would suggest take it to
Okay.
the planning commission
Okay.
and bring it up to them.
Well, I think we have a serious issue, board.
Well, that's fine.
Whatever Bob thinks about that
That-
or not, and it's
that-
something that we need to
Alan-
deal with, whether or
Alan-
not I was there.
That's right.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, very good.
All right. Moving to the next item, FOIA update.
FOIA, my friend. Since our last board meeting, we have had 3 FOIA requests come in. We have completed one of those, no problem. And then we have two that are still ongoing. One of them has to do with the 2016, 2018, and 2020 elections. And this is an organization that's asking for information about the election. So that hasn't gone away yet. The election is still out there. And then the other FOIA request was a request to look at the packet of information that we found regarding the Torchport Air Park history. And so we did have a request to look at that information. So both of those issues are still ongoing. In other words, they have not yet been completed. And as for anything else, that's it for FOIA.
All right, thanks, Kath. Next one is the financial report. You have the main page there. I'll keep it short. At a high level, we are running favorably to the budget, and this is the first time we've had monthly budgets, so it could be some timing issues there. On a year-to-date basis, we are ahead of budget. Our expenses, you can read through the different explanations, both for the current month and the year-to-date. The details behind these numbers can be found on the website, both at a high-level summary by major category, also line item detail. If you have any questions about the financials, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to go through them with you. And as I say, the real details and the meat of it is out there on the website. So that's my report on that. We will move to business action. There is no old business. We have new business. We will begin with item 1. Board, I submitted the outline for your review prior to this meeting. This steering committee is required based on the agreement that we now have to rewrite the zoning ordinances. Therefore, do you have any questions as to what I put together? I reviewed it with our legal, and it is appropriate for a steering committee. If there's no questions,
I have one.
all right,
Of course I have one.
of course. You would
course.
disappoint me if you didn't have
Well,
one.
absolutely, Bob. Let's not batter back and forth, Bob, okay? Let's stop that shit. Excuse me, sorry. Anyways, the reason I bring it up is I'm still not clear. I know this is part of the contract with them to have the steering committee, but it says they will review the proposed changes. What does that mean?
Well, just that. They're going to review it, and the process that we're going to follow is Beckett and Rader, with the support of Sarah, is going to go through our ordinances and start to rewrite them. And as they go through that in sections, they will then proceed to review it with Steve Langworthy, since it was his comment that started this whole thing. And then it will come forward and reviewed with the steering committee. They will do a common sense test, bring some of the overview with it, and discuss it further. Once that is done, of course, once they're done reviewing this, it will go to the planning commission. So
Now,
the
is that
planning
done in
commission-
stages, or is it done the
will be
whole
done.
thing, or?
If you'll remember, there was a schedule.
Yeah.
It's going to take about 11 months.
The
So-
only thing I want to know is, do we know what those reviews are? How do we know?
We're going to walk through it when we get to our first steering committee meeting. We will discuss that in detail.
It seems, well, just again, off the top of my head, this might be a
That's all
good
right.
report for the board meetings in terms of the reviews they've done up to now and where they're at.
Well, we haven't done any because the steering committee hasn't started yet.
No, but I'm saying I'm suggesting that would be something to keep us informed. Otherwise, because it's not a Open Meetings Act, but you are posting the meetings, that I may not be able to attend all of those.
Right. Well, we'll do the YouTube streaming so that the public will also have the opportunity to view the meetings. The meetings will be open, and they will be on YouTube.
Okay,
No other questions, then I will make the motion to approve the creation of the steering committee per the attached document titled Steering Committee, Torch Lake Township Zoning Ordinance Review. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the creation of the steering committee per the attached document titled Steering Committee, Torch Lake Township Zoning Ordinance. Any further questions?
I have one little itty bitty one. You're going to have a recording secretary for this?
Yes,
Okay, do we have any idea who that might be?
not yet?
Okay. Same pay as for the other recording?
Yes,
Thank you.
all right.
Veronica.
Any further questions?
Well,
Hearing
then
none,
Then that would be changed at the bottom there.
what's that?
There, 155.
Oops, yes, they are.
Are they? All right. All right. do you
If
want
you're doing the same.
Restate the motion then with the change?
I don't think you need.
Okay. If there's no further questions, Kathy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
I will. I'm on the list first. I will say yes. Ms. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Merchant,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
yes.
and Mr. Cook.
Yes?
That motion passes 5-0.
All right, we will move to item number 2. I provided the names of the people that I wish to make or appoint to the steering committee, so I will make the motion to appoint the following individuals to the steering committee, Torch Lake Township Zoning Ordinance Review. And for the board's information, they have all accepted my invitation. Jason Merchant from the Planning Commission, Laura Carlton from the Planning Commission, Laura Anderson from the ZBA, Lee Scott, prior chairman of the Planning Commission, and Todd Millar, our township attorney, and I will be ex officio. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jason. Any discussion?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Jason Merchant, because he wears 2 hats, is he really more of a board representative rather than a planning commission because you already have a planning commission person?
Yeah, I was looking at it as his being on the Planning Commission, he'd be able to communicate back.
Okay, so okay,
Since it's a steering committee, I don't think that's a conflict.
it's not relevant, okay.
Because they're not going to vote anything, it'll be a recommendation.
Right.
Any other discussion? No
The
discussion?
only concern that I had, I worked with Todd Millar a lot, and he's a really fine gentleman and good. But I want to caution the board about something. And that is, and I thought about this a couple days ago. I'm now looking at Todd Millar as a calculator. And what do I mean by that? I was a school teacher when calculators came into the classroom. And all of a sudden, the kids found their answers on the calculator and they were not able to work them out. And they didn't understand that multiplication was a series of very quick additions, or that division was a series of very quick subtractions. And you lost that concept. And so what I get at is that often when there's an attorney in the room, we sort of back off because they know a lot more than we do, and they indeed have words and they do have understanding. And this is true of all experts. They're just people and they have a point of view. My only concern is that we depend too much on the attorney and not our own common sense, and also the reality of our own township and what the people here need and want and how we could work it out for them. That's my caution. That's my caution about using experts too much on the front end. Let's put our sense in it first and then have them review it. This always was my approach, and I think it worked well. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
You are really muffled. I can hardly hear you half the time, Alan.
My mic's right here. Can you hear what's
Is it
going on?
muffled to you guys? Very muffled. You have a
Maybe
terrible
just-
speaker.
Maybe just back up like maybe a couple inches.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Should I say it again? I will.
but you were very muffled the entire time, and I'm just like trying to concentrate on your voice. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's everybody, but
No, thank you. That's good. Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, Kathy, would you conduct a roll call vote? please?
Alrighty, Ms. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Merchant,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes,
Ms. Windy Eight says yes, Mr. Cook,
Yes?
and that motion passes 5-0.
You're back working, Lee.
We were going to make him work. He's had too easy a life. All right. Item number 3, the board, you were given the red line version of the changes to the fee schedule. Are there any questions for Sarah outside of the one that was presented during citizen comment?
I went to Sarah prior and got all my concerns and questions answered,
All
so.
right. All right, if there are
wait a
no-
second. Sarah and I talked today with regard to the fee schedule, with regard to the property splits, and it indicates, I've got to find it here, excuse me a minute. Land divisions, or merger, okay. Okay, I have no questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So I move we accept the changes to the Torch Lake Township fee schedule as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Your further discussion?
Well, let me, hang on.
I'm
Let me
good. Thank
repeat
you.
it.
Thank you. Good.
All right, motion has been moved and seconded. We accept the changes to Torch Lake Township fee schedule as presented. All those in favor say aye.
No,
Aye.
Aye.
did he give up his discussion?
Yes, he did. He waved it off.
Yeah, it's good. I'm good. I just got confused, of course.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes, Kath.
Okay. That was not a roll call, so. all right.
Nope.
That's fine.
All right, item number 4. We provided, Sarah provided you the details behind this one, and they are included in your packet. The item on the first page of her document is what was being used. The board, do you have any questions for Sarah based on the comments she included with this item?
My only comment is, this is not ordinance number 2. I gave you bad information, sir. This is in fact going to be, wait. This will be number 4.
All right. Well, then we'll
So you
have
need to
change.
correct that on the sheet
All right.
so that we're voting
Yep.
for it as number 4.
If no comments, questions for Sarah, then I make the motion to adopt ordinance number 4 of 2021, the Torch Lake Township garage sale repeal ordinance, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. Do I have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded. The motion to adopt ordinance number 4 of 2021, the Torch Lake Township garage sale repeal ordinance, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption of the paper within 15 days. Any further discussion?
I have one comment,
All right.
please. Item number 3 of Sarah's comments, is this an issue? If so, we need to create an ordinance that works better for the township. And the only one issue that I can come up with is the perpetual yard sale that we have going on. My question would be, if we delete this, which is fine, then you're right, we need to come up with some better language to address that issue. And you're familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure, but yes, if you do have concerns with that, we would need to do it.
Okay. We have a perpetual yard
They're
sale.
not following this anyway. That professional one hasn't been following this anyway.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Kathy, does that mean we don't have anything on the books then with regard to this issue?
Well, the purpose of this motion is to eliminate the yard sale, what's it called? garage sale ordinance. And I would just say that, yes, I believe we're correct in that we need to look at some new and more appropriate language for the same kind of thing.
We can task her to
Yep.
do that.
I asked the question then, why did we eliminate it instead, before we had a replacement?
Well, I think Sarah's points are
I know.
well taken here, that first of all, let's see, there's no penalty to the ordinance the way it stands. So if someone violates it, there's nothing we can do
I
anyway.
understand that.
And then the second thing is that to enforce it costs money, and there's no fee to cover with the help of the cost again. And once again, no penalty if someone gets a permit after the fact. And then her question, is this an issue? If so, we need to create an ordinance that works better for the township.
Well, that's my point, is that why didn't, we have an ordinance in place, we don't put any fees. It's difficult to enforce, but we have enforced it in the past. I personally enforced it one time. And I'm just wondering why we didn't alter the ordinance to meet those needs, as opposed to eliminating it now. And it's going to take 6 months to get, not 6 months, well, it could take as much as 90 days to get an ordinance in place.
I would just guess that it's easier to start fresh than to try and amend something that's been in place, but I'm not
I
the
think the
CA,
other-
You can't
so.
even read this old thing.
I think the other
Say it,
thing,
Sharon, again?
You can't even read this old one here. I mean, it's been in effect for, it's not been ever really enforced.
Ellen, quite
Since
honestly,
85.
It's an 85.
Yeah, yeah.
and not only that, there's no signatures on this.
This is
It's
is
just
really
it's a
bad.
clipping, so what we just need to do is.
Okay, go
review
ahead.
it,
I'm
and
not,
we'll fix
I'm not
it.
going to fight it. I just don't want to open up a
Yep.
can of worms, that's all.
We'll fix it. All right, Kathy, will you please conduct a roll call vote on this?
Okay, I got to find the right page here. Front and back, front and back.
No, you should have just a
Here it is,
regular.
here it
one.
is, here it is. All right, so the motion is to adopt, I added police power ordinance number 4 of 2021, the Torch Lake Township garage sale repeal ordinance, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. Motion made by Cook, seconded by Wendy 8, and I'll ask Ms. Schultz.
That was last time. Yes,
What?
yes,
You were going to second it?
no, I was first. last.
Okay, Mr. Merchant,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes,
Mr. Cook,
Yes,
and I vote yes myself. That means this motion passes 5-0.
all right, board will move on to motion number, item number 5. Board, again, you received the details associated with this work from Sarah, and I open the floor for you to ask questions to Sarah.
well, I talked to Sarah today with regard to this. The issue that, I think it's good. It's a good ordinance. The problem is that we have hundreds of homes on private roads. And the definition under here indicates that, that the public or private roads or street meet all the applicable local standards of the State Transportation Department. That means that all the private roads come up to county standards, as I read that, which is extremely significant in terms of not only the width of the road, but all the kind of grading and runoff and ditching that is required. Like I said, we have hundreds of private roads that are very adequate and work fine. So, and that's on looking on page 2, 8 at the top in turn, under the definitions or number I of the definitions there. It's also mentioned again under I below it. And then further into the ordinance again, you get into section 4, page 4 of 8, part D, under section 6, approval from the Road Commission or Department of Transportation for all new parcels and/or private road access. Again, this is, affects any new parcel. If it doesn't have a road to county specifications, You can't have this kind of a parcel. You can't make a split that would allow that. These people will not allow anything that would be a good private road. They have to approve what is to their own standards. That affects a lot of roads in this township. And like I say, it's hundreds of homes. So it seems, and that leaves a lot of inflexibility to the property owner with regard to taking a split off of their property or combining with another property, which happens all the time. That's why the merger question, I wanted to make sure that was in the section on fees, because mergers take as much for the zoning administrator to put together as it does for splits. There's as much to look into. So this is a question, it seems to me this should be, something should be thought out about this in other ways. One of the things that the fire department has done, as did the ambulance people at one time too, they would drive our roads and make sure they could get through, and including in the wintertime, that they could get through, everything was clear. I even looked at people's driveways, and everybody was very, you said you got a big branch up there, and I don't know if my ambulance can get through there. They were very good about taking that down. We never had resistance to that. But people like trees, they like to see the green and all of that kind of thing. So what I'm getting at is I think we're going to create some limitations here, which are not going to be helpful to a number of property owners.
All right. Sarah, what are your thoughts? And
In dealing with item D, which is on page 4, with the approval from the Road Commission or the Department of Transportation for all new parcels and or private road accesses, what they do is they review those parcels to make sure that they have adequate site distance, that they're actually going to be able to put in a driveway once they split the property. And then if there is a private road that's going to go in, that it has adequate site distance as well, depending on the number of parcels that go in there. So this is something, this approval is actually even in the state law as a requirement that the departments are supposed to do for us. So this isn't approving what their driveway looks like or anything like that. It is just saying that with this split, you will have access to a road, or your private road will have access to a public road.
And if you don't meet the site distances, what happens?
You can't split your property.
You can't split your property. That's a number of roads in our township.
But
That's a number of
if-
private roads.
If they're existing, that's an existing non-conforming issue. But this is that item D is a requirement in state law that we have road commission approval or MDOT approval for all new land divisions.
Well, it's never
So-
been practiced in our township. We've got numbers of private roads that have been developed in which the Department of Transportation has never looked at, nor brought in on any kind of a situation. It seems to me that this kind of a burden right now, either we accept them as a grandfathered situation in some way, but there's a number of them, sir, that do not have that kind of site distance. That's why I'm saying, when I look at I looked at their standards years ago in the roads that I built in my developments. And we looked to do that. In fact, Michigan Trail looked at it just a few years ago with regard to bringing it up to standards. And the cost was unbelievably prohibitive for them. And there's 80 or 90 homes on that road. So what I'm getting at is that we pass an ordinance like this, we are going to jeopardize a number of properties and homes and expenses for the people in this township. I think it's I think it's something we should look at and talk through and see if there's a way we can do this that is reasonable and fair.
is there a different way of writing it to meet the state regulations, or is it really state law that in fact, if we haven't been enforcing it, it's non-conforming?
Right, and I mean, it would be, if you have an existing, it's not about the standards of what the road's made of or how wide it is or anything like that. It is just if the access is safe for that private road or a driveway once the split's approved. So if they have an unsafe private road right now and you're putting more properties on that road or lots on that road, you would want them to say, no, that's not safe. You can't do that. I mean, unfortunately, if you exist on a private road that's not safe, you shouldn't contribute to having more cars go up and down this private road that's not safe. The thing is that this is a review by these outside agencies, what their standards are, what their requirements are, what they look at, that's what they're doing.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could look at if there's this is similar to state law, what it says, but I'd have to look to see if it's exactly, or if we could, I could just copy and paste exactly what it says.
All right, Sharon?
Is this in reference to a lot more remortgaging going on? And they're not remortgaging a lot of these homes because they're private roads and they're not up to standards quite often. Is that part of that question and answer?
I don't think so. I think it is just because it's to make sure that it's safe and that.
Well, they want to make sure that these private roads have access for a fire department or a police officer or ambulance and all those sorts of things. So they're cracking down on that on these private roads, making sure that these vehicles can get down these private roads. So more and more taxpayers and title companies and lenders are calling me wanting to know what they need to do and so forth. So that's, to me, that's part of that question.
I'd like to know the
and answer.
particulars of that, Sharon, because we've never had a problem on the roads that I know of with regard
Have you
to mortgaging.
refinanced lately? Refinance, and if they see a private road and.
Well, I understand the concern, and I understand the question, but they are also approving mortgages on private roads. So how did that occur?
It depends on the road. Do they have access and so forth? Do you have snowplow of capability? Do you have road maintenance? They look at all that stuff in the new federal.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that
Right.
makes sense. Anyone who buys a home ought to make sure that it's clear
Right.
to where they're going. But if you're now going to require the people of this township to bring all their private roads up to state or county standards, you're going to affect a lot of people in this township.
Well, I think the question is it, what's the standards doesn't sound like it's specified on dimensions or
I'd
road
like to see-
content.
Yeah, we should see those standards.
Well,
I mean, if you're
It's
just gonna
just
look at it and say,
for
yeah, you got a
access.
good way in,
if it's just quantifying safety, then I think where you're going is much broader and is a totally different discussion. I mean, Sarah, I look to you coming in with the ordinance. Is this specifically then related to a safety issue and nothing related that would constrict our township citizens from utilizing those roads if somebody came in and did a cold measurement on?
Yeah, it's from a safety perspective and being if the lot is buildable or not. Essentially, if you didn't have a road commission approval and you allowed for a split, a 1 acre split or something smaller, and it's on a curve and the road commission comes along and says, I'm not going to give you a driveway permit for that property because it's not safe. Well, somebody down the line already bought this piece of property from somebody that split it, got their money, they left. Now you have this homeowner that has essentially an unbuildable lot or has to go and try to get an easement from someone else so they can get access to their property from the public road. So it's trying to help out owners or builders later on from getting an unbuildable property. I mean, you could say something along the lines to clarify this at the end of the sentence. You'd say
Which
approval.
page?
It's on page 4, item D. You'd say something, approval from the road commission or Department of Transportation for all new parcels and or private road, and then add for access to a public road. So
And,
that's our intent, is the access to the public road.
and that measurement
In a
then,
safe manner.
that measurement then would be defined by safety from the road commission, Department of Transportation.
I'd like them to do an audit then of our roads and see what they come up with before I would approve this. Who are they going to come into a group to, like
Just-
Michigan Trail or something like that and say, no, this is not safe? And
Well, I don't know what they would do with an existing road. If somebody wanted to do a split on it, they would look at it and see
well,
if
what you're
somebody could have
saying
more
is
parcels.
we have a road and we have a place where a property could be split. If that road, by their definition, is not safe, then you can't have this split. Yet the road's been used by a number of people for a long time. That's what I'm questioning is what roads that we have that are private then would be considered by these people as not to be safe, because those people need to know that they're limited now with the use and additions to their property. And that, I think, could be a lot of properties.
You'd have to take that up with the road commission if you wanted them to do that. The state law requires this as a document that we have for a land division.
And right now, we have nothing that's an ordinance associated with land division.
Correct.
If they want to sell their property, can't they just make their road safe?
If they wanted to split it, they'd have to. they
But
would
to
have
make their
approve.
road safe, Jason, is thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I get that, but.
But if it's not a safe
If it's
road,
not safe, and you want to sell your property, I guess
Well, the
you're gonna make
question,
it safe.
you know, what safe is different. I mean, I looked at what was a safe speed on Golden Beach Drive, and they put it at 45 miles an hour, which was really very high, because if you go down there any morning or afternoon, it's loaded with walkers and joggers and everything else. And so I asked the road commission about this, and their response was, well, we don't consider people, we consider the number of driveways over a certain area. It has nothing to do with safety. The same thing occurred on West Torch Lake Drive in the summertime. You know, again, people driving there 55 miles an hour, and it's loaded with joggers and runners. And you probably can attest to that to some extent. And yet, to them, that speed is okay, because there's only a certain number of driveways along the area. There's no consideration for it being a vacation area and people being out walking and jogging. So they look at those kinds of standards, which are very, very clear, but they don't come out, they don't check the people that are there. The same thing here. Many of the, in fact, all of these roads have been in existence in our township, many of them before even zoning, and they've been improved by the people that bought them and improved. Others were added later on. And I'm saying to myself, again, what are their terms for safety? I mean, if they're not going to walk in and again, how will they say it's safe when they have their own standards for a safe road? It has to be their standards. That's what I'm getting at. I'd like to really know what that looks like.
I
Very
think-
bothersome. Again, I think this can hurt a lot of people.
Sir, I, based on what you're saying, and the fact that we don't have a land division ordinance, we can always pass this, and if in fact you go into further research and you want to come back and modify a word, I don't see a reason that we couldn't come back and revisit it. But based on what you have said, that is safety, and the fact that we don't have a land division ordinance of any sort, I believe, and therefore I will make the motion to adopt the ordinance, which will be number 5 of 2021, the Torch Lake Land Division Ordinance, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. Do I have a second?
Do you have the word "for" in there? And
Oh, with the change?
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
But she did comment on making a change on that, on page 4 of section 6B. Are you talking about adopting it and including that?
No.
Or that's just what-
No, we're accepting it as is, except there was one thing, was there?
It was on page 4 in section.
No,
6B.
yeah, for,
4 has,
for-
she said adding 4 has to include public development.
Yep, we will.
From the road commission or Department of Transportation. For
Yep.
all new parcels and the private road access. for access.
Yep, I got it. So I will modify and say the land division, let's see, I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance, number 5 of 2021, Torch Lake Land Division Ordinance, and have the clerk publish, ordinance with the change, and have the clerk publish the notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. Is there a second?
Hang on, please. Would you repeat your change?
It's here. The word ordinance with the change.
Okay, thank you.
Be nice to repeat that change. I hate to interrupt, but
That's fine.
there's a significant concern.
That's fine, Ron, I'll reread it. So the change is on page 4, section 6, part D, approval from the Road Commission of Department of Transportation for all new parcels and/or private road for access.
My
Sure,
apologies,
sir,
but
I'm sorry, Ron.
I need you to read it again, but I missed, I was looking for the section of the word.
I have it written here.
it's
Sure.
private 4.
Approval from the road commission or Department of transportation for all new parcels and/or private for road access to a public road.
Thank you.
I had not heard
My
that.
apologies for
All right.
having good ears.
All right, so we have motion with changes. Is there a second?
So that was made by you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jason. Any further discussion?
I would say, Board, that the potential, this is a very, very serious motion, an ordinance that you're passing. And I guarantee you, it's going to affect an awful lot of people who are going to want to know what's going on. You need to think this through a little bit, and we need to look deeper.
My feeling is how often do we split parcels? Is that something that happens every day?
Every day.
Truly?
Just, please, hold your
Sarah,
comments.
do we
Sarah?
split parcels that often?
We've done two this year.
Two this year.
I was gonna look on our report, I think it has the land divisions on the zoning administration.
We had two splits and one combined, so it's like for the year.
So it only affects a few people. We only hurt a couple people a year.
I think we've done
Well,
two.
but Alan only hurt them if they've got a road that's not safe.
Yeah, but we don't know what safe means. That's my
Well,
point.
you'll find.
We have no idea what safe means, and yet we're going to approve it. I've told you before, their standards for safety, I will suspect, are going to be in excess of what we have. One thing is you don't drive 45 miles an hour on private roads up here. You drive much slower now, but they won't consider that safe. You know, it goes on and on. It's not clear, and you can really be jeopardizing a lot of properties here. I promise you that.
All right, so.
We
Sarah?
have, on our report, we have 3 land divisions and 3 property line adjustments that we've done so far this year.
All right. All right, Kathy, will you have a roll call vote, please?
I will. Okay, so I'm first on that list, and I will say yes.
Write down that list.
Sharon Schultz?
Yes.
Sorry. Mr. Merchant?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
You know, again, Kathy, your private road, you have to think about your private
Ellen,
road
it's
to
just
your
a vote.
house.
I know,
My
but
answer is no, I'm not
there's-
voting for this.
I am on a private road that cannot be
Okay.
split.
That's right.
Anyway, so
am
Martell, was
I.
that a no?
Yes,
Mr. Cook?
yes.
All right, that motion passes 4-1.
Very bad.
Alan,
Well, as it's also been suggested, if we need to make changes to it in the future, we can do so.
We need to make those changes now before we get people angry.
Well, we can't make them tonight without having a better understanding
We
of
could have
what
tabled it
safety
until, and
means.
looked at it with
all
more
right,
care than we
guys,
did.
come on.
Okay, I'm not trying to be
Let's get back.
argumentative.
Neither am I.
Motion number 6.
Motion number 6.
All right, item number 6. Board, you received a copy of Sarah's explanation behind the ordinance. Are there any questions for Sarah? Here,
This is zoning ordinance, right?
yes.
And I think
If
I
not-
had correction to the numbers on those too.
What is that
Yes,
number going
that's
to
right,
be?
that'll be number 6. So I'll make the motion to
Is that
adopt
number 6?
ordinance number 6, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment 2.19, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 6, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment 2.19, and have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days.
I have a
Any
con-
further discussion?
Yes, it was brought up that 30 days consecutive. Was that something that we need to look at?
That's currently in the ordinance, consecutive.
0.19 is number 6.
And that, again, allows people not to use their
I
campers on
understand that,
weekends.
Alan. I understand that. I'm just adding comment to this one.
Sarah, is that the item that you included with the green line in it? Is that the old one?
Yes.
So the old one states that a one-time occupancy of no more than 30 days per year may be permitted. So it wasn't in the old one. So question is, do we want to put it into the new one then?
That's what I'm asking.
I have no objection to doing that. So that word that.
So Alan misstated that comment then, correct?
Yes. Yes, he did. 30, so we want to add consecutive, 30 consecutive days.
Can we just talk about it and see if we want it or not? I don't know.
Well, I'm willing to make that change
Okay?
in the ordinance. Sarah, do you have
As a
any
dwelling.
issue with doing that?
As a dwelling for up to 30 days.
No, I think if it clarifies what time frame it is for the board and for the public, that, it'd be a good addition to the language, if-
Consecutive?
Yeah, I think you could put not more than 130 consecutive day period, or wherever you want to put that word in there.
We'll put it before day.
And this is what Sarah and I talked about earlier, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Two. So how do we want it worded?
So what I will do is I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 6, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment 2.19 with changes. And have the clerk publish notice of adoption in the paper within 15 days. So, Jason, did you second that? Or did Sharon, did you?
Sharon did.
I did. So it's reading that one 30-day consecutive period. Is that where we want the word consecutive?
No, 30 consecutive day period.
30 is consecutive. Okay, right there. Okay, thank you.
So, you add your second for it?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion has been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 6, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment 2.19 with changes and have the clerk publish notice of adoption of the paper within 15 days. Kathy, would you have a roll call vote, please?
I will. So Wendy 8 says yes. Ms. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Merchant?
No.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes? All right, we'll go to item number 7. Again, Sarah provided you information on this. Do you have any questions for Sarah? This is an ordinance number 7. Any questions for Sarah? Hearing none, I will make the motion to adopt ordinance number 7, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment to chapter 4 and have the clerk publish notice of adoption of the paper within 15 days. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 7, 2021 regarding zoning ordinance amendment to chapter 4 and have the clerk publish notice of adoption of the paper within 15 days. The only discussion I have is the planning commission passed this and the interim board passed it with suggestions, but the planning commission decided that it was sufficient the way it stood. If there's no other discussion, Kathy, will you conduct a roll call vote on that, please?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The, A lot of record is a lot of record as of today. A residential lot that exists today is a lot of record as of today. I'm looking at this thing, any non-conforming lot of record, is that today? Starting with zoning, any that existed at that time. And what is the policy with regard to somebody who wants to build on a non-conforming lot?
You can build on a non-conforming lot as long as you meet the setbacks in that, of that district that the lot exists. You
Now,
have to meet the other dimensional requirements, just as anybody else.
there's a subdivision called Old Mission Estates that has access to Lake Michigan. It's been there since 1962. Number of homes have been built in there, but there's a number of empty lots. Many of them are like 100 by 100 in terms of size. So they don't meet the 20,000 square feet of the standard size that we have in the zoning ordinance. But those people, by the time they put in a well and a septic field in a reasonable size house, in many cases have had to go for a variance. Is that still applicable, or does this lock them out?
Nope, they would be able to apply for a variance if they need a variance from the setbacks.
Okay, the practice here has been, for ever since I've been here, which is many years, is that if it is a residential lot and it is a non-conforming lot, that again, if they can meet the setbacks or get a zoning board of appeals approval, that they can build their residential property, their residence there. I mean, if they weren't blocked out, is what I'm saying. This, I just want to make sure this doesn't block them out.
No, I mean, they would, if they could meet their setbacks and they have a lot that's less than 20,000 square feet, they could come in tomorrow and get a land use permit. If they can't meet their setbacks, but they want to build on it, they would need to go get the variance just for the setbacks, not for the, the construction of the house. We're not challenging or saying they can't use their property for a single family dwelling. We're just saying if you can't build in your building envelope, just like everybody else in any district for any lot, you'd have to go get a variance if you can't meet your setbacks.
Okay, some homes are partially non-conforming because of a setback situation, often towards the lake, and the back is not. Does this now, as it's stated in the front end of this about the expansion of a non-conforming structure, does that now limit that to not happen if any part of it is non-conforming?
If the addition meets the setbacks, then you could add on to the back side. It wouldn't allow
Okay,
you
that didn't change.
You'd
That
have
doesn't-
to get a variance if you want to go closer to the lake, if it were in the
Right.
lake setback. But if the new construction meets all of the requirements for the setbacks, we have no issue. You can get a land use permit without a variance.
Here's one thing. I know people that have non-conforming properties, and often they're some of the original people here. And it bothers me when we say this here, that it is the intent of this ordinance to permit legal non-conforming uses, structures, and lots to continue until they are removed, but not to encourage their survival. These are people's homes and the place that they live, and maybe have been there a long time and has been passed on to family people. It sounds to me this is kind of
Ellen, what page?
unnecessary.
Ellen, what page are you reading?
I'm reading, I'm at the intent and purpose on page 1 of that ordinance.
Yeah, it's section
4.1.
4.1. It's the first sentence. I believe the county made the similar comment about the word survival. It would be up to you. If you don't like that word, you can pick a different word. But, Michigan Zoning Enabling Act says that nonconformities, you're trying to get rid of them. And you can do that in the most strict way possible, or you can be more lax in how you deal with nonconformities. So, the intent is to allow people to continue what they're doing, but if they remove it, you're not allowing them to rebuild it or do something like that. So, but if that end of that sentence, I can understand where you're saying this is somebody's property. To me, it's very clear what you're trying to say, though, is that you want to allow them, but at some point you'd like for them to go away.
In 40-some years here, this whole township has become more conforming, including many of the non-conforming properties have become conforming. And it just happened over time and the way people's lives went and what they did with their mom and pop cottages or homes or places like that. It's almost like a natural progression that we go to the ordinance because we get permits, we have to get a zoning permit. So that's why I'm just saying that, I mean, I don't know, it bothers me because these are real people that have these places. And that's all.
Thank you, Sarah. No other comments? Then Kathy, please conduct a roll call vote.
All righty. Wendy Davis first, yes. Schultz? Ms. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Merchant?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. All right, we will move to,
Excuse me, this motion passes 5-0.
we will move to item 8. Sharon, you can lead this for us, please.
Did numbers change on this one, or are they accurate?
I believe they're good.
Okay. This has to do to conform with the AMAR audit. This is a resolution, as you can all see, with the waiving of the penalties for property transfer affidavits. For Amy's AMAR has to have this in the, something either you charge or you don't charge, an up-to-date resolution. Many of the townships around here, we were looking, and it could have been in the 70s or 80s that we had some kind of resolution, could not be found. So, and to all my predecessors and myself, the township has never charged for property transfer affidavits. So at least this is something that Amy can put into her packet for an AMAR review and not the township get dinged on it. So this is a very simple resolution that needs to be passed because none can be found in any prior years of 40 or 50 or 60 years ago. So
You want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I ask, Sharon, I'm sorry. On the motion page versus the agenda, we do have two different resolution numbers, and so I am not sure which one of those two numbers is correct. The
Well, on the
motion,
agenda was the old one that was given to me. So the one that is in the motion is the correct one. That's
that
one
is
you
the
gave
correct
me.
one? Thank you. So that's 2021-24.
Right, and that's what's
Okay.
at the top up there.
Pardon?
It's at the top up here.
Yeah, but it isn't, yes. Go. So the motion
I make
is
the
by
motion to
Ms.
adopt the
Schultz.
resolution 2021-24 to waive penalties for non-filing of property transfer affidavits under the Michigan laws of 211.27B.
I will second that. Any further discussion?
Roll call, oh, sorry.
If no discussion, then Kathy, would you have the roll call vote, please?
I will. Wendy, yes. Schultz?
Yes.
Schultz? Mr.
It's right
Merchant?
on his sheet.
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
It's right on that sheet here, too.
Okay.
All right, item number 9. Sharon, this is yours as well.
This too is part of Amy's AMAR that we need to update. We did this same resolution of poverty exemption income guidelines back in January 20th, this board approved. We had two separate types of resolutions. We did the asset test and then the exemption income guide. And they were both pretty much the same back in January 20th. Parts of them were incomplete. Amy gave us a sample of what needs to be totally up to date for her AMAR again. This is nothing different than the one we passed in 2020 and January 20th of this year, but it's adding a little bit extra in there, talking about the asset test that was missed the first time around. So this, again, is an update to satisfy the state for her AMAR review, and this we'll just revise the January 20th, 21. So I make the motion to approve the resolutions 2021, 23 for poverty exemption, income guidelines, and asset test.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, Kathy, we'll need a roll call vote.
All right, Wendy, 8, yes. Mr. Cook,
Yes?
Mr. Martell,
Yes,
Mr. Merchant,
Yes.
and Ms. Schultz.
Yes, yes. And I will type these up appropriately and have it signed and given it to Amy for her packet of AMAR reviews, or
Great.
ready for the review.
That's soon, isn't it?
It's soon.
All right, we'll move to item 10. Board, I've provided the information to you on this. This was brought to our attention, Sharon's and mine, by Mark Bertram for our ambulance leader. He said a number of the area ambulance groups have expanded their benefits to include dental and vision. And he felt that this could end up being a differentiator when we start looking to hire or keep our existing EMS people. So we went to our insurance group. They came up with a schedule. You have an Excel spreadsheet that kind of walks through the calculation of that. So I would move we approve the addition of eye care and dental medical insurance for all full-time employees effective August 1st, 2021, with an estimated first-year cost of $3,800 to be paid by Torch Lake Township and $670 to be paid by the employees. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Just so when you look at the Excel spreadsheet, the total cost is for $4,471. The employee share is 15%, and Torch Lake Township picks up 85%, which is similar to the rest of our insurance programs. So, is there any discussion?
this extends to their spouses as well, if they're
Yeah,
covered.
It
yes,
can
if you
be.
look, there's different categories for the employees that we have. So a family would include spouse and children. We have one employee that has one child, and we have one employee in eye care that has a spouse.
Yep.
All right, no further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Board. Item number 11.
So they have to apply though, right, Sharon?
Yeah, the full-time employees must come in tomorrow. I
Yep.
think our representative for the insurance company will be here tomorrow because it's got to be signed and done so they can have it ready for August 1st.
August
So
1st.
all the
Right.
employees that have the insurance have been notified once, and if it passed today, they need to contact us today or tomorrow or tomorrow or the next day for sure.
All right, item 11, Sharon.
Says Bob.
Yes,
Yeah,
I make the motion to move Mary Merchant from alternate to the Board of Review as a Board of Review member, replacing Don Lays, who will be moved to the alternate of the Board of Review effective July 21st, 2021.
And I spoke to Don on that, so I will second that motion. Any discussion?
What's the reason?
Don
He
requested.
requested it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
If there's no other question, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That closes new business. We will move to, and Board, I hope someday we can get below double digits for board action. It's been busy 4 or 5 months now. The first one, I attended the Central Lake Village Town Board meeting last week and expressed to them my concern. We're not able to find an ordinance enforcement officer at $30 an hour. So one of the things I had Bill Peterson on his initiative contact Scott Barrett, the chief of police over there. And they basically shut down their second person that they had. He felt that, maybe there would be some possible arrangement in which we could share a resource with them. So I attended the meeting. Their board was interested. They have a subcommittee that's called the Township Enforcement Committee. And they would like to sit down with us to discuss the possibility of us acquiring a part-time security officer, or police officer with the full power to enforce our ordinances as well as all of the normal police activity. So as an update, we had the Scott over here for a meeting with Sharon, Bill, and I. And right now, there's a skeleton as far as what the role would be. Our interest is really focused on the day park during May and September, because we really, at this point, we don't have enforcement that carries a whole lot of weight. But we also know that between October and March, it's a slower period of time. So we've got to work through those things. So I just wanted to open up to the board to give me your thoughts on this. At this point, I would like to meet with them. Since I have 3 members, I'm going to bring Bill and Sharon. We'll have an off-site meeting and start to put some stuff together unless the board is uncomfortable with any of that. So I'll open it up to the board. No comments?
I'm not uncomfortable with that. We've been saying it for a long time that, for example, zoning ordinances are no good unless you can enforce them. And what's going on at the park, I think just a presence. I don't even think they would need to do more than just be seen that, oh, look, we've got some law people around, so.
To your point, Alan, I got an email from that same gentleman that wrote to you last year about the speeding. This officer would have a full equipped squad car, so it would be radar equipped, and we could start monitoring those roads that are a risk for us.
I think
those people.
it's a good idea. I could not see another way out of it other than, I think one of my last suggestions to you was, I felt we needed a police officer in this district, even a police department. We have more crowds. Summer's the big time, of course.
Yeah. Well, at this point in the budget, we have $15,000. We made the adjustment, I believe in January, where we took it from $20 to $30 based on 500 hours. So in the budget, we have 15 grand associated with ordinance enforcement officer. They are working up numbers now, and hopefully we can come up with what the right processes and procedures are, what they will be involved in. Part of what they're looking at is the possibility that Scott, on his own initiative, could provide some additional support if we needed it. So the idea is to open up an avenue of conversation and see where we come out. So if there's no objection, then I will move forward on that.
No, I wouldn't object. When I spoke to them, I think it was Scott, and their supervisor, about 4 years ago, maybe longer. I asked them what their budget was. They had a $90,000 budget, but the car was paid for and the equipment was paid for. But they were running a $90,000 a year budget, which at the time looked high, but maybe, again, I think it's something the public would support. I would ask that for sure, but it seems that we need to have that kind of authority around here. There's so many crazy things going on. Luckily, so far not up here, but we'll get our share.
It was a village president, not a supervisor,
Okay.
just for clarification.
All right, so I'll move forward with Bill and Sharon on that.
Mm-hmm.
The second item was originally item number 12. With the passing of Dick, the accounts payable operation is just one more straw in the camel's back, if you will, for for Kathy and Virginia. So I pursued to get a cost estimate to get a part-time accounts payable specialist. Part of that is because, as we will see in our old policy 4.0, there, for accounting, there is a purchase order process, which has never really been followed. The purchase order process would have eliminated the risk of what took place at our last meeting with a payment that didn't have an invoice associated with it, nor a purchase order that was appropriately approved for. So the new 4.0 that is being worked on by Mr. Spencer and the attorney is still incorporating that purchase order process. I think in our community, we've got expenditures exceeding $1 million. I think it's appropriate to have an AP process. So I have put out there on the website to see if anybody would be interested in coming in as a finance person, and as of yet, no one has come in. So in talking with Olivia down at All Seasons. All Seasons, yeah. She doesn't have the bandwidth just to provide somebody on the short-term basis that we have, and the cost is like $80 an hour. So at this particular juncture, that's why I removed it. I'm going to try to find an alternative to that. I've reached out to Trent to see if he knows somebody in our area that he's worked with that might be doing a part-time job and could pick up another part-time that would also be familiar with the BS&A accounting system.
Trent is our auditor, for those that probably care.
So that's why I moved it. There was, Olivia did not have a suitable alternative for me, so it wasn't worth bringing up to the board. So that, unless there's further discussion on that item, I would move to informational purposes only.
So this All Seasons is off the table then?
Yep.
With that cost.
Right. So Sharon, did you mention the American Rescue Plan up
I
front?
did in the beginning
Okay.
because I didn't want anyone to leave
All right.
the meeting if it got long and not hear it.
All right, the long-awaited constant contact update. Back in January, I believe, or December, I asked board members if somebody would be willing to head it up. No one volunteered at that time, and needless to say, we've had a lot on our plate. So my wife went and contacted them and got some information. We've given it to Sharon, and we will start to pursue that, and we will come up with procedures for people that wish to add their email to it to provide us that information. So that will be coming within the next 30 days. And so watch the website for more information on that. So moving on, we will go to citizen comment. And again, if you would, limit your comments to 4 minutes per person. Bill. He had his hand up first, Bob. He was going to run you over anyway.
Gently.
Gently, thank you.
You want to give that to Kathy,
It
please, Bill?
doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Stridiron, 5803 North M88. I have 2 concerns this evening. One is the suggestion that we put on the fee schedule for pyrotechnic professional licensing. We talked about that during the whole debate going back and forth on the fireworks ordinance, the police power ordinance. And we went back and forth, and if I remember correctly, if we have somebody that wants to shoot off professional pyrotechnics in our township, there's a cost incurred to us. Fire protection, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm a little puzzled why we didn't put that on the fee schedule to sort of recap some of those costs that may occur if we have a professional fireworks display. So I would like to respectfully reconsider that, if you would, please.
I will answer that. board comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, you got another
The
one?
next thing I have is, this is really a perplexing situation. The M88 rezoning. Since I'm personally affected with that, I had to recuse myself from the hearing. I'm just going to make some statements, Bob. This is not a slam against anybody. I was trying to listen to it on YouTube, and unfortunately at that time, we couldn't do it because the sound was just terrible. So I didn't have any way of really knowing what was going on in the meeting. So then I looked at the minutes, and the minutes really didn't give me a really descriptive chain of events of what happened in the meeting. So then I approached our clerk and said, perhaps I could have a recording of that meeting so I could listen to it. And unfortunately, we had some type of technical glitch that we didn't record it. So I'm sort of left out here hanging like, what really happened? So I'm looking at the minutes that I could glean, and I looked at the 8 points that the planning commissioners were being given to guide it on. And I'd like to bring it to your attention that I think that the decision was incorrect and out of order. They didn't consider all the 8 points correctly. And as it goes through the process to the Antrim County and comes back to you to make a final decision on this rezoning, we need to look at how this thing transpired. Not only the M88, but going forward, are we going to use that same criteria for the air park? And if we are, we could have a problem. So I'll just leave that comments to you. I'd like you to think about it long and hard and review what happened and look forward to our future and what might happen if we use that same criteria. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Mr. Spencer.
Good evening, Bob Spencer, 709 Northwest Torch Lake Drive. Kathy, I will hand you this as soon as I'm finished. Just wanted to give you a quick update about the policy development, planning and discussions that David Revore and I have been having. We've been meeting by Zoom lately, and we meet every week. We have another meeting tomorrow. And we're making, we feel, pretty good progress towards providing you with a policy proposal. We understand our role is to develop a proposal for your consideration. Your role is to read it, tear it apart, decide what, if any, modifications you want and what you want your final policies to be. So our goal is to provide you with some kind of policy proposal. Likely it won't be totally complete, but it will be fairly substantial and will move you along toward making a decision. But we want to have a special meeting with you. We've made a request of the supervisor to have a work session on a month from tonight at your August regular meeting at 6 p.m. We would like, I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but I'm just telling you that request is there from David Revore and I. He will come up and go through the proposal. He's the attorney. I'm the gopher. And so I just wanted to give you an update. We've been kind of behind the scenes working underground, just trying to get things done. So wanted to give you an update, but I hope a month from tonight, basically, that we will have had a work session prior to your regular board meeting. And you will get a policy proposal from us. That's a draft, of course, about a week in advance of that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Any other?
Citizen.
No, we'll just write that here, repeat.
Just a quick update on how the Laserfish, that $30,000 investment for scanning documents. Can we get an update maybe at next month's meeting
Sure,
on how that project's going? I
sure.
just haven't seen it in any of the minutes.
Well, it's a work in process.
Just, excuse me, sir, I didn't do as I promised that you get this.
I seen you walk away with it, but I didn't tackle you.
You were not getting out of the room. You could not go home before that. All right, board, we'll move to board comment. And Alan, I'll start with you.
Well, the only thing I want to mention again, at that special planning commission meeting with regard to M88, we had the session in May with Steve Longworthy with regard to the kinds of considerations you have for rezoning. And he gave us a list of things to look at. The thing that he emphasized in that meeting, though, is that every one of those items, when you say it does not substantially affect the neighboring property, you are to list the findings of fact as to how it does not affect the neighboring properties. So that there's a list, it isn't just your opinion or your thought. And again, when I go through the minutes of that meeting, that was not at all placed in there. And what I'm getting at when I looked at that too is that, again, if we have to decide on how rezoning occurs, I mean, that would be a direction that we would give the planning commission, that they come up with in addition to the zoning ordinance. Like I said, up to now, we've not needed it because the rezoning was clear. It took a lot of time and there was a lot of participation publicly. So it wasn't a matter of coming up with certain kinds of criteria. Actually, when we got to the time of the vote, everyone said, yeah, this is going to work. It's okay. It wasn't that kind of question. But here we do have some situations with that question. I really think that this approval here, we could have done better. I don't want to say it should not have been approved. I'm not questioning that at this point. But I'm saying that I didn't understand many of these criteria, and I didn't even know how they applied, to be honest with you, one of them especially, how that would apply. And the one thing that I found absent here was the comments of the public. What did the public there feel about it, and who were they, kind of thing? And what did the hearing say? There was no consideration of them. And we had the larger meeting now, we had a lot of input from the public. Is that then a criteria we don't use with regard to the future or not? So those are very serious questions, because the public expects us to make a very sound, reasonable decision. And of course, my stand has always been to do the very best to represent the people of this township. That's all I want to say at this point.
Thank you. Jason?
The only thing I want to say is, I don't know if you noticed, but we do have new microphones and wires, and the YouTube's up and running and everybody can hear us now. And I'd like to thank Bob for getting that done.
Thanks, Jason. Sharon?
I have nothing except that we're moving right along, and I'm glad we got our grants all lined up and go from there. I want to wish everybody a continued good summer.
Kath?
I have nothing specific this evening. Thank you.
All right. I've got some thoughts tonight. I've been kicking them around for a few weeks. So I want to reiterate to the community that we have a dedicated team working for you in the township. Please do not hesitate to write or call the people who are running the various parts of our township government with your questions. Always feel free to call me should you hear anything related to what is going on in our township that leaves you with a question. As mentioned at the last Planning Commission meeting, the common citizen statement centered around rumors circulating in the township. Please do not hesitate to call me or send me an email. In most cases, I will have a better update as your supervisor than others who may not be as involved in the activity that is in question. Additionally, anything related specifically to zoning administration should first be sent to the zoning administrator. Please copy me on it if it's an email, so I am aware of the issue. Communicating to anyone else and not the responsible person for an initial concern only delays our ability to respond. If our response is poor, then by all means communicate with the total board so it can be discussed at the next board meeting. Finally, the website is where we are trying to communicate items of concern to our community. Meeting notices and information related to those meetings are included so people can come prepared to these meetings to participate in citizen comment. Constant contact will also aid with us in this effort. And with that, I make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
You had one comment that you were going to make about fee schedule.
I did?
I think,
You told Bill you were going to address.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Bill, when we do the fireworks, especially the professional ones, we put in, it's a special permit, and we put all those requirements in that permit because it could vary based on what they were doing. So we did not put anything specific into the fee schedule. And it depends on what's done. So like for the water, when the fireworks, the guy wanted to do the water, 2 years ago, Alan? I mean, we had conditions related to the shoreline. That would be different than what Mr. Bays might have requested with the professional at his airport. So I think we take care of it during the special permit process. All right. With that then.
and that with the fire department and the work and a lot of things that
Right.
go into that decision-making point for the, yeah.
We take care of that.
Yeah.
So I will.
I'll second your letter.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
You'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
8:51.
Everybody said yes. I can hear everybody. Sure you can. Hey, well, neither did I.